Cambridge Zen Center in 1987. He was adorned as a novice monk in 1999 in Chikchesa, South Korea, and in 2003 he received Buku precepts at Tongdosa in South Korea. He has lived and practiced mainly at Hwagesa and Musungsa in Korea, where he performed the jobs of housemaster, media director, and head monk. Kwan Haeng Sunim received Inca in December 2020, and he is currently the abbot and co-guiding teacher at the Providence Zen Center in Cumberland, Rhode Island. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here today, here in the Dharma room, those of you on Zoom, and I would like to make a special thanks and welcome to our visiting group of students here from Tufts. Thank you so much for coming here to the Providence Zen Center and spending your weekend time with us. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. And with that, I'll hand it off.
Hi, everyone. I've given a few Dharma talks, but I'm actually quite nervous to give this one because I wanted to talk about something that I think can be maybe a little bit controversial. I want to talk about Zen and gender. So when I first came to the Sangha, it was there were a lot of men coming in and not a lot of women, and it also was kind of clear that like the positions of teachers tended to be mostly men. Mostly men would do Kongan interviews, and it just kind of stood out to me. And at the same time, the head of the entire school, Zen Master Song Hyang Bobby Rhodes, she is a woman, and we have a lot of female teachers. We have JDPSNs and Zen masters who are women. So it was just a little, I just kind of wondered why, and I thought that it would. I really wanted to see more women in the Sangha, and I've heard people. Sometimes people will ask questions about gender, and I think the kind of answer that I heard back was like, well, don't make men or women, and there's no problem. And I'm not quite satisfied with that answer, I guess. So, I always try to kind of include women. Like I'd like to, when we have Kilche, I'm always looking to how many, female teachers are coming to Kilche, and I was looking at that the other day, and I think it was like 3 or 4 out of 12 weeks for winter Kilche, and I was like, I was hoping it would be half. We still have a couple, openings. And then I thought, well, we have all these JDPSNs and Zen masters. Like, how come the women are not coming to teach? So I went to the website, and I just, out of curiosity, I started counting, and I counted the male teachers, and I counted the female, and it's only 25% that are women. So I had this idea that it was a lot, but it's actually not. So then I went, when I was working on this Dharma talk, I went to the Soto Zen Association, I think it's called, and I counted the teachers, and they actually have 40% female teachers. So I was like, we're actually, not doing as well as them. Why is that? What's going on? And I think one idea maybe that people might say is, well, men and women are just different. So and in my experience, it's actually true that, if you ask a woman to do a Dharma talk and you ask a guy is more likely to say, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And a woman, you're more likely to hear, well, I'm not ready. Even if they've been coming here for a very long time, they're like, oh, I'm not ready, not yet. I think that is actually mostly a cultural phenomenon. And I think you can kind of see that it just so happens that there are a lot of Zen students in Poland. I'm from Poland. And there is like a Zen master, there's a very high up Zen master, Bunshim. And there is Agata Haeng Sunim JDPSN. Actually, we have 2 female teachers coming to Kilche. And Marta is here from Poland. So there's just more women in Poland who are just kind of step into these positions. I think this is because of like a cultural thing that when Poland was communist, women were kind of, I don't want to say pushed, but it was kind of like, okay, women are going to get educated and women are going to work the same jobs as men. So when I was growing up, like my grandmothers had worked, my mother worked as an accountant. Like it never occurred to me like, oh, I'm not, I can't be in a profession or something like that because I'm a woman. When I came here, I was actually quite surprised that like, oh, some women just don't work. They, stay at home and raise the children. Not to say that that's not a valid option, but I mean, I've seen how in the U.S. there's still this socialization of women being more likely to have like imposter syndrome, where they feel like, oh, even if I am in this leadership position, I don't really deserve this, like I'm not good enough. And I think there's also another element to this, that it is in a situation like this where you have a group of people and you see that the people who are quote unquote visible or leaders are more likely to be men. I think there is this concept of psychological safety that men don't really think about, but I think is very kind of salient for a lot of women. And I wanted to share a couple of anecdotes from my own life to just kind of illustrate what I mean. So when I was just about to graduate college, I got this job. I studied psychology, and I got this job in a residential treatment for people with serious mental illness. And I was one of the counselors. It was mostly young women working there. The owner of this, it was kind of like a network of residential centers. The owner was this older man who was a doctor, and then his wife was the executive director of the center that I worked at. And as part of being the counselors, you had to go and do what they called supervision with this man. And that's basically like you go in and you have like a conversation about, like the people that you're supposed to be counseling, you ask questions, blah, blah, blah. And I went to supervision, and this was in his house. It was kind of like an old school, like a psychiatrist's office almost, which you imagine like, Freud's office or something like that. So I went through supervision, and, we had some kind of conversation, and then this man, he brought out this book of art, like Renaissance art. And he opens up this book, and there are these portraits of women in the book. And he says, "Oh, Eva, you look just like these portraits. You're so beautiful." And I think like, uh-oh, like what is going on here? So I don't remember like, exactly like what happens next, but I'm like, I'm going to leave. So at some point I get up and we're still in his house. And, I'm about to leave and and he like comes up to me and he, I think he like tries to kiss me basically, where he comes in for like a hug. And I smell alcohol in his breath. And I just kind of turn away and he like kisses me on the cheek or something like that. And then it just so happened that he had an assistant who worked, in the house. And then like she just like appears. I see that she is there. And I'm like, okay, great. Like I'm getting out of here. So I leave and, I go back and I'm like, I'm just not gonna go back. And, we talk with the other girls and it's kind of you realize that it's just how this guy is. He like, that's what he does to the young girls who work there. So it turns out that later he ends up getting sued by someone like that also worked there at that time. So, telling it, I'm kind of like getting a little upset, but I can't say that like this, experience traumatized me. It's not something I really think about a lot. But I think it kind of taught me a certain lesson that you can't be too trusting of men in power. And I had another experience like that with actually a family member of one of my ex-partners, where this person was also kind of like inappropriate and would cross boundaries. And she just did it and nobody could really stop him and everybody ignored it. And it was just, I think, really destructive to the family system. And again, it wasn't that I was ever like, what you would say, like seriously assaulted by anybody. But again, there's like, a lesson there. So when I was working on this talk, I looked up some like statistics, and it basically said like 80% of women have been sexually harassed at some point in their life. And I'm like, wow, that's like a huge, huge number. So you can kind of see like when you have that, it doesn't have to be something where you're like, oh, like I will never be in this, in a room with a man. But for some women that might be the case because they have very serious trauma. But when you, where you're like in a community like this, and when you see like, okay, like we're doing this thing, like we're doing Kongan interviews or we're doing retreats, and you see, it's mostly guys doing this, it's mostly guys, leading this. You just kind of think like, is this for me? Should I be doing this? Is this a safe situation? And you might say, no. And I think, like I personally, like through experience, I have learned that like I trust all our teachers, I trust all the men who are part of the community. And I think, so like, that's good for me, but I think it's not enough. Like, I think we need, like, there needs to be a critical mass. And since I've been here, like, we didn't have any female Dharma teachers in training. Now we have Lisa and Danielle. We had Carol. Carol is our only senior Dharma teacher. Both is the only one that regularly appears. But as time goes on, it's just we're building critical mass, when I think, whatever like the leadership position is, whether it's someone doing, like Danielle doing Moktak Master, or Lisa doing Dharma School, or like Jess, when there are Kongan interviews, we now have more people doing them. And it ends up being just a mix. When like more people raise their hands, it ends up being like, okay, now another woman raises their hand. And now it's like, okay, everybody's doing this. This is like a constructive thing for everyone to do. So I think we are like moving in, I'm really happy that we're moving in a good direction as far as that's concerned. So before I have until 11:05? I never know when I'm supposed to finish, but I just wanted to finish with one thing. This is the 10 Gates, which is the Kongan teachings of Zen Master Songsan, our founder. And again, I went in here and I counted, and there is a lot of monks, a lot of Zen masters who are all male. There's a dog, there's a cat, there's a mouse, but there isn't a single woman in the Kongans. Okay? And it's actually 12. I don't know, it's called 10 gates, but there's actually 12 gates. And the 12th one is Songsan's 3 men walking. And it says, 3 men are walking. The first man makes a sword sound. The second man waves his hands. And the third man picks up a handkerchief. So, Zen Master Songsan, he did choose a female successor. He, there were a lot of women teachers that came out of the founding of our school. But at the same time, I think because he was a man and he came from a culture where for centuries it was, just men. And women were really kind of excluded from the Dharma. So I think he wrote this, and I don't think he saw, to him it was men, that means everyone. That's just an observation. And I'm just going to end here. Thank you.
Well, Eva, that was interesting.
I'm sorry, Sunim, to be so controversial and put you on the spot.
I didn't feel so much on the spot, but there was something you said that we say, the way that we say something about women. I forget exactly how, my memory's not. You said that we approach the idea of woman in a certain way. When you just said that, how did you say that?
I don't know.
But anyway, for me,
making men.
Although we say that, making men make. Oh, okay, all right. So for me, that's not how I looked at it, and I don't believe that the Buddha looked at it or anything like that. But the Buddha, and as far as I know, Zen Master Songsan, is that everybody's equal. Period. Equal, and you can see it in the stories that we tell. And the thing is, however, there's this cultural thing, and it's in India really strong. It's in Korea really strong. It's in Japan and America. So we're infected with this cultural stuff about men and women, and I sympathize it as a black person because I feel this what she's saying in a sense in the racism that I have here in America, and so but in looking, I found quite a story that I enjoyed, and that was the sixth patriarch. And so the sixth patriarch was Wei Nang, and he was the son of somebody who worked for the king, who fell out of favor with the king, who sent him down south. And then he went down south, and his father passed away. So the way that he helped his mother was he chopped wood and sold the wood into the local places. Now, the thing about Wei Nang is that he wasn't Buddhist or anything like that, but there was Buddhism around him. So one day he went and brought his wood that he was selling to the store and to the shopkeep. He sold it, and when he came out of the shop, there was a monk standing out there reciting the Diamond Sutra. And he said, and the words that he said is, don't attach to anything that enters the mind. And when Wei Nang heard that, his mind opened up. And so his mind opened up. And so once again, I did point out to you that he wasn't Buddhist. He didn't think in a particular Buddhist way, but that's what happened. So he went over to the monk who was reciting the Diamond Sutra, asked him about it, and he sent him to the fifth patriarch, and said that's who had taught him the Diamond Sutra. So I went to the fifth patriarch, and he said to the fifth patriarch said, "Why do you come here?" And he says, I came here so that you could teach me the Dharma. And the fifth patriarch, Hung Jen, he said to him, but you're Aborigine. You're Aborigine from the south. How can you get enlightenment? And so what it is that there's a north-south thing, that the people in the south are all educated. The folks in the north are all educated. The folks in the south are farmers. So he said then, so that was what the difference is. But Wei Nang looked at him and said, in Buddha nature, is there north or is there south? And when the fifth patriarch heard that, his mind, he realized that this person had attained something. And so for me, that was, and so then he told him, he said, you go in the kitchen, because he was around other monks who was looking at him. He said, go in the kitchen and chop wood. And then he looked at the other monks. This is just a story, how the story goes. I don't know if actually, he said, isn't this Aborigine clever? And he said, send him back into the kitchen. So he sent him back in the kitchen. He was working. But the bottom line was, it came to well, there's a couple things that go here. First, it's an interesting thing to say that this was a Zen master who, and all his students, all these monks was his students, and he couldn't say to the other monks that this person from the south, his mind opened up, and he couldn't let those guys know because they'd have killed him. And quite frankly, they would have killed him. So he just pretended that this was just a funny guy, and he sent him back in the kitchen. And maybe some time later, there were some stories that went, I'm not going to tell the whole story, it's a little bit lengthy, that he went and told them that he actually believes that his mind is opened up, and he's going to give him the next patriarch, that he's going to become the next patriarch of the school. He's going to give him this bowl and the robe, and then he gave it to him, and then he said, "Run!" And so for 20 years, Wei Nang literally ran. They chased him down and everything like that. So for me, this whole thing of what I'm saying is that this monk was the master of this mountain. We are Kyongjen, a Zen master, and his students wouldn't listen to him. His students hadn't attained that point that everybody was equal. And this is culture. We teach it. We're teaching it, and people are not listening. There's still the culture covers over. I don't know what it is. Our culture is so strong, but that's the teaching. And I hate to say this, but my understanding is Jesus taught the same thing. And people don't listen. What are you going to do? And even when you sit down and you practice and you meditate and you attain this point of emptiness, and you understand that that in this absolute, there's no male and there's no female, there's no up, no down, there's no opposites. Okay? And so then what is mind? And what is a human being? And what is an animal? And what, those are the things that we look at. And if you come out of those questions and you are sexist or racist, you've got a problem. As simple as that. You got a problem, and the world has a problem, and you can see it. We have a problem, yeah. So that's how that is. And I recognize this problem here in the school, in that we had a teacher, Nancy Hedgepatch-Cheetah-Polson, who lived here for many years, but I believe she left, and I think it had to do with COVID. She's in Maine now, still a teacher and so forth, but she lived here for many years and taught here. And I lived here right along with her. But since I become abbot, I always try to encourage women to appear. And so with Eva and Daniel and Lisa, I encourage them all the time to practice and to go as far as they can, encourage them to go as far as they can. So yeah, I'm telling you, it looks funny when we walk into this room and see all men sitting there. I'm sorry. Even to me, it looks funny. So I do want to have women sitting up front. I want to have women to be teachers. And so that's the direction we're going. And I'm glad that Eva sees that, and Eva, Daniel, and they're encouraging that point. So having said that, does anybody have any questions?
Hi.
Sure.
So I have a comment, and so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Danielle Alfer. I'm the director here at the Providence Zen Center. I want to just say to you, Sunim and Eva, the three of us work very, very closely on many of the things that happen here at the Providence Zen Center. And I do appreciate you, Sunim, being cognizant of the things that Eva brings forth. And I want to let you know my direct experience. It's been very wonderful and supportive as a female or woman. I do feel that support. Eva, you and I have talked about it too. I can kind of second your motion, if you will, in pointing out. I want to encourage anybody here in the Sangha who is interested in the first steps to being a Dharma teacher is 5 precepts. Some of you have come forth and asked about that. And ladies, we would love to have you join us as 5 preceptees, which is a step towards, a leadership role in the school and in the organization. And thank you.
Hello, thank you for sharing. It's interesting, the synchronicity of what you were talking about today, because it's something I've been contemplating for a long time in my meditation, and that is perception versus perspective, right? So, the old saying, perception is reality, right? So I guess it's kind of a question I have, is perception really just our ego, which then would make our perspective our true self. And I sit on this a real lot, probably way too much. But it's just that keeps on coming back, right? Because we have a perception of things. We have a perception that a Zen master has to be a male. We have a perception that, when I go to my yoga class, the best instructor is going to be a female. We have all these constructs that we've put in our mind of what are perceptions. But every time I try to sit, I go back to what is the perspective of myself. I'm kind of grappling with that. So any clarity would be awesome.
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't know about this perspective, but the perception is that as we practice to let go of our what I call the filters, the conditioning of our society, the filters that we have in our society, so that we could perceive things as they are, and not as we think they are, not as the society teaches us, not as our mother and father says, not as our parents, but see things as they are. And that's what we do, is we give you the tools to do that. And perceiving things as they are, confident that then you're going to see wind up, I guess, in the perspective of then how can I help? You know, when you attain this point that this I is just made by your thinking, and that's the ego and the whole shemale, this I is made just by our thinking, then what else is there? It's us, okay? So with this us, then what can I do to help that? How can I help my family? How can I help the people around me? How can I help folks understanding that this I, that this situation is not about me, but it's about how can I help? And so this, what you perceive isn't, what you perceive is filtered by our conditioning and all that. What we do is we practice to get clear so that we could see things as they are. Okay, not through our filters and this and that. And from there, make a decision. But from there, it takes practice. Do you understand? Practice. You're not going to read a book and it's not going to tell you, oh, you got to do this, that, this is your, and get all the information that you get and then go out and do it. You've got to do something. You got to practice. There's no way that you're going to not practice and work on that conditioning. That conditioning is, as you heard me, it's hard. It's hardwired into us. We all have it. And there's stories of Zen masters that Zen masters are what? Human beings, just like all the rest of us, you know? And so it really is important to look inside, attain our true self, right? Attain our true self. And from there, help others. And in doing that, what do? We practice. So when we practice, that means that we work at this conditioning. And this work at this conditioning is never going to happen overnight. Even you get enlightenment. You can get enlightenment. I've seen folks who said that supposedly that were enlightened, and yet that humanity, some funny things still appear. Okay. So that's clear. So you attain this enlightenment. You understand how the world works, but you still got to work on it. You still got to practice. Practice is all throughout your life. It's not, like I said, something that you read in the books so that you understand it. That's why Zen Master Sung San said, your understanding cannot help you. You know, when you pass, your understanding cannot help you. You have to practice and get in deep with that. So there's this story that's kind of interesting, because we got so many people here. The folks that are here regular heard it many times. Nonetheless, so we had this. Does anybody have any questions, or can I go?
I have a question, but you can go.
No, go ahead. Ask the question.
What?
Go ahead. Ask the question.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Sunim. So I have a question about perception. I have like a neurological issue, and I have like a visual distortion all the time, and it's been going on since I was a kid. So I physically can't see things as they are. Exactly. Like it's subtle, but it's small. And it's before thinking because it's anatomical. So I just wonder how I can think about that or practice with that. Or other people with blindness or various visual problems and stuff like that.
Yeah. So when you say other people with blindness and stuff like that, you point out something that is a part of us. That's as a human being, if I'm blind, right? Then that's in Buddhism. That's our karma. And we have to work with it. Just like bowing is a very good practice, but there's some people that cannot bow, okay? There's some people that physical limitations don't allow them to practice, period, you know? And that is how that is. So that's why I said if you're lucky enough to have a body, a young body at that, bowing and practicing, do it while you can, you know? Don't think that, I've got all this time and that I don't have to. And then so for you, with your limitation, what can I tell you to do? I don't know, because I don't really understand your limitation as it is. But you have to find some way to work with that. If you feel that this practice, this Buddhism, what is a truth, you have faith in that, then you've got to work towards that direction. That's the only that I could tell you about that.
Thank you.
Okay?
I've got a brief one. You've spent some time in Korea, quite a bit of time. And it's my understanding that there, for many centuries, have been like nun temples, nun-only temples, joint nun and monk temples, and this has been happening in our tradition for a very long time. And it hasn't been reflected in our masters and in the recordings, but can you, this is my perception, I don't really know because I've never been to Korea, but has there been a strong nun tradition in our tradition? And is that a thing still strong in Korea?
So as far as I know, it is still quite strong in Korea. They have nuns and nuns temples, and I've been to some of the nuns temples, and I've been around some of the nuns, and they don't take malaki from the monks, as from what I could tell. I've been in groups with them, and they don't take a lot of malaki from us, and they're quite strong practitioners, and I don't know how else to say that. Is that I found them very strong and good practitioners, but they do keep us separate, and they do for a reason. And so, okay, let's say the reason. The reason tends to be like, for instance, when the people that are wanting to be monks, they're going to school, and they're the Samis, which is beginning monks. When they go to school, okay, the monks, when they're on vacation, the nuns are in school. When the nuns are on vacation, the monks are in school. So there's a kind of thing that, Korea has a 1,000-year tradition, so they know what the deal is. And so they tend to keep separate. And they have the monks' temple, they have the nuns' temple, and they are separate. I was in a student, a nun who was a student of Zen Master Sung Sun. I went to their temple, me and a couple other folks who went to that temple with Westerners, and we spent the night there. And the surrounding community was actually quite angry about that. They were angry that there were monks that stayed up at that temple. They shouldn't be in that temple, is what they said. So that's a kind of interesting point about that. But do they have sexism? Is still prevalent? Is still there? But I know that there are other traditions that don't even allow nuns, and a couple of them come up. One of them came up to from the tradition in Southeast Asia, came up to a monastery and became a nun. But that's how that is. Okay.
So thank you, Eva, for raising this thing up. I understand this as wanting the Sangha wanting to make it better for women to be more represented, and like feeling that there's more space for them and it's more inclusive for them and less sexism. And this is of course the very nice thing to do, and we want this equality mind in our Sangha. And what my experience is that equality mind is something to be somehow developed, right? I mean, we need to. The question is whether the practice itself is enough, and maybe my question would be about how you see the documents we have, the ethics policy, and all that. Is that a document, and the formal structures that we have, are they like supporting this lack of sexism or lack of discrimination and so on.
Is this for me?
She's asked for you, yeah. I could say, yep, I believe they are. Take my word for it. No. I'm better to ask a woman, I guess.
Before you answer, could you make clear the question, please?
I'll reiterate. So the question is, first, praising Eva for bringing a problem or seeing a problem that is in our culture and bringing that to the table, and that takes some bravery, so thank you, Eva. The question is, does our ethics policy and our current documents and processes reflect an environment that is free of sexism or pushing towards that openness for women and men, equality?
Thank you for that question. I have read the ethics policy, and I think that the ethics policy is actually quite good. I think it's very kind of measured, and it's not like, it doesn't come from a place of like being punitive. I think I think the ethics policy is very clear and very measured. I think your question brings up something else, which I didn't mention in my talk. I think because I was a little nervous about mentioning it because I've never heard it mentioned by anybody since I've been here, and that is that I think the ethics policy came out of the fact that there was actually a scandal in our school with our founder. I mean, you can go and find out details. I think I've heard kind of explanations, or like I've seen online explanations. Some of them were kind of like excuses, I think. And when I kind of found out about it, I did think, how do I say this? So I think that that scandal was not as, I don't even want to say, it was not as bad as maybe some of the other scandals that I've heard about where it was like a severe abuse of power. But I think there was a little bit of abuse of power, even though some people don't see it that way. And I hear a lot of people will, I think rightfully, our founder was a very charismatic person. He was a very good teacher. He did, a great deal of good. But yet at the same time, he made kind of an obvious mistake. You can't say oh, he didn't know any better. But he is long gone. He made the mistake, he is long gone, our school survived. So I think now it's up to us to, I don't know, I guess the term would be digest that karma and to demonstrate that we're not gonna make those kinds of mistakes. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Kurt, before you get started, I just want to say I don't want to touch too much of what Eva says because I want people to sit with it themselves. But I'll just say that one is that, like I said, Zen masters are also human, and the other thing is that Zen Master Seung-Sahn left us with a very good teaching. He left us with these buildings, these schools, and he left us with a bunch of teachers. and there's a lot of good that we could do with that. And so on that note, I say I hope everybody continues to practice.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Eva, for your opening talk, and thank you, Sunim, for answering questions and sharing your wisdom. Thank you all for joining. So a few announcements. So let's see. This week, as you know, we have Wednesday evening practice each week. Opens with a public vegetarian dinner. You are all welcome to join us. This upcoming Wednesday night, we will also have Kangan interviews. So if you have been here before, which all of you have, you're welcome to join us on a Wednesday evening and come in for a Kangan interview. We do have a few retreats coming up. We've got a 7-day YMJJ, which is our silent retreat, coming up here in December. That will be led by Zen Master Seung Hyung, who is Bobby Rhodes, who is our school Zen Master for the entire group. You can enter in that retreat and do the full 7 days. That way you would enter in on a Saturday, or you can come in on Wednesday and sit the rest of the week. You can do a minimum of 3 days on that retreat. We have 2 one-day retreats available. Coming up here, October 4th, we are going to have the first of its kind called Zen in Motion. This is a retreat where we are blending Zen and movement and outdoors. So one of our Dharma teachers in training will be leading the practice side of the retreat. A handful of other Dharma teachers in trainings will also be leading yoga and mindful movement. Come join us. That's on October 4th. We do have a rain date of the 11th. However, we will still go out in light rain, just so you know. We have a 1-day Christian Buddhist retreat scheduled for Saturday, November 15th. That will be led by one of our co-guiding teachers, Zen Master Tangang. And we will also have in that group folks from our Christian partners, so they will all join us. It is a silent retreat, as I mentioned, but you'll get to sit with an interfaith group, hear some talks from other teachers, and enjoy some meals. This is precept season. As I mentioned earlier, precepts are an opportunity to make a commitment to yourself and your practice. We start with 5 precepts. Any of the folks that you see wearing the brown casa in the room, those are at least 5 preceptees. If you want to take precepts, we're doing a precept ceremony in December. So the deadline to submit for that is November 17th for anyone looking for 5 precepts. You can also speak to Zen Master Tangang or Kwan Haeng Sunim or anyone that you see wearing a casa here in the room. They'll be able to answer any questions that you have about their precept experience. I thank you all for your presence. This is the reason, and the best support that you can give us is by showing up. But additionally, as they say, internet, electricity, and heat are not free. So we do satisfy our expenses on memberships. So if you find it in your heart and belly to join the Quantum School of Zen, please do. For an individual membership, it is $30 a month, so a simple $1 a day. You are part of the Temple Care Collective, and you help us support our programming and our buildings and all the things that we need here to keep this going. Additionally, feel free to make a donation. Anything helps. There are donation boxes out throughout the building or down in the kitchen area, and we also have a space on our website where you can donate as you'd like. We also have an opportunity to practice with us online with the West Side Zen Group out of Providence. You can do that in person in Providence or online. That is Thursday nights. See our website for details. And with that, Finally, Winter Kilche is open and available for registration. That is our 90-day silent retreat that we hold up in the monastery up on the hill. Thank you all for joining us, and the gift shop will be open this afternoon. George will be in there manning it, so go and see what if there's anything of any interest, and then we've got a whole plethora of snacks out there for you. So thank you all.